Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 20th episode of Visioncon Spotlight, your in-depth look at the nerds you love. I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but you didn't come here to see me today. You came to see the man of the hour. Fans of anime, video games, and Visioncon Live will recognize him as Roche from Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ash from the Trail of Cold Steel series, and plenty others, but he is also the acclaimed author and creator of the new hit radio play, Megaton Girl, here to prove once and for all that superhero is not a one-size-fits-all archetype. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only, Austin Lee Matthews. Austin, what's going on?
There's a lot of fanfare in there, lots of language, and then I'm just like, acclaimed.
Hey,
to be fair, they didn't come to see you, but I did. I came to see
you. No, I mean, I calls him as I sees him, Austin. And so I will say, we touched on this a little bit before we started, just Austin and I, but I like to come clean. At first, when I said, hey, Austin, you want to come on this other show that I do for Visioncon and, promote Megaton Girl, I did that solely, because we're pals and I like to, just help out. However, I started watching the first episode that came out, and oh my God, I'm hooked.
I'm glad.
It's funny without being too campy. It's definitely, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's representative. It represents an audience that definitely does not get as much spotlight as they deserve, even in today's society, while still being just a real great and fun superhero time. So we'll touch on all that in a minute, but the first thing I wanted to ask you, Austin, is kind of where did the idea come from?
So that is probably the longest question, because I had the idea, oh gosh, I don't remember the exact year. I just know that it was 8 years ago because I literally just celebrated Connie's 8th anniversary of being made. So it started off as a video game. I wanted to make a video game, and it was just going to be like a beat 'em up kind of a platformer kind of a thing, almost like the Scott Pilgrim game. And that's actually probably where I got the idea from. But eventually it got to the point where I'm just like, I don't know how to make video games. So I kind of threw the idea to the side for a bit, but I kept the character because I liked Connie as a character. So she kind of became just like a character that I would just like throw everywhere. I would just like, if I wanted to do like some fan art, I would just like, have Connie in there, but she always had like a very like distinct personality. So college comes around. And actually I would have been in college at that time, but so I was taking a screenwriting class in college, and I decided to kind of work on some different stories and stuff like that in that class. And one of them was this idea that I had for a superhero, almost like the Truman Show, but with superheroes, real superheroes, but all of the situations and villains are all fabricated. And sorry, I've got something in my teeth.
You're
sorry. So I liked that idea. And I eventually kind of threw that idea aside because I want the stakes to be real. I want real superheroes and stuff like that. But a lot of the ideas that came about through that ended up making their way into what Megaton Girl eventually became. The main portion of that being Captain Valiant and his what was a newspaper is now a BuzzFeed kind of a website, but for superheroes. And so that's where he kind of came around. And I wanted to do a story where he was the bad guy, because he's very much like a very relevant kind of villain, because he's a bastard who uses his power to abuse people and to harass women and to just for everything for his own gain. Basically a superhero who does not deserve to be a superhero, and in any other way would be described as a supervillain. But there are people who are like that in real life, who you know, they get away with this stuff. Like it's insane. So I wanted to do a story where he was the bad guy, and so I'm just like, Connie fits the superhero kind of a thing really well because she always had like powers and stuff like that, but I rearranged her powers because I wanted to have like this big, showdown where these two, heroes with similar abilities just had like this big like climactic showdown with, heavy metal orchestral dubstep in the background. Um um and so like I kind of started tweaking the story around that, and that's where Laurel came in and where Kirby came in, and then eventually it kind of morphed here and there into finally being a radio play because I wanted to have full creative control over it, and that was the easiest way for me to do that. um and Yeah, that's where a lot of the ideas came from in a pure story sense, where a lot of the ideas kind of congealed together.
Well, we threw a lot of names at you guys, so real quick, let me actually just add some context to these names. Let me share. Okay, so let's go through each of these panels. I made a little slideshow for us, and then Austin, tell us about these characters, maybe some of a bit of the design, and also an important thing to touch on is there's been quite a few big A-list casters that are actually voicing these characters.
Yes. The blondie is Connie. She is the protagonist, and she is the titular Megaton girl. She is voiced by my dear friend Amanda Kay, who is the voice of Vivi in the Mystery Skulls animated videos. And she has been Connie for as long as Connie has been Connie, because like she just absolutely embodies everything that Connie is. And she's got, that really like Amanda has a larger than life personality, and she's just always so just like, awesome. And so I'm just like, Amanda has to be Connie. And she is, she's got like the standard superhero set. She's super strong. She can fly. But she can fire a laser out of her mouth, kind of like, trying to think of like Raccoon in Dragon Ball Z. It's that kind of a thing. Or I guess Godzilla, which is more where the idea kind of came from. But she is a pansexual superhero with a big appetite, larger than life personality, and who just legitimately cares about people. Like she just, she wants to help people. And she grew up with, with this idea of what a hero should be. So when she sees, when she gets to meet a hero, that hero being Captain Valiant, who I'll touch on later, and she sees, what a bastard he is, she's just like, what business does this guy have being a superhero? So when she gets superpowers, she's just like, well, I could beat the shit out of him, or I could be a better hero than him. And so she decides that she's gonna be a better hero than him. And that idea is helped. It is that idea is given to her through her best friend and now girlfriend Laurel, who is this girl right here, who is voiced by my other dear friend Michelle Deco, who you've heard in Fallen Legion, I believe the second Fallen Legion game. She voices a ton of characters in that. And Laurel is she is a graphic journalist, which basically means that she reports on the news and she draws it like a comic book. Yeah, so the first episode opens up with her like her first story for this news website, which is called Olympus Illustrated, where she takes footage of these superhero fights and does essentially like a dramatic recreation of it, but in comic book form, where comic books in this world are essentially miniature biographies about superhero moments in time. and her boss is Captain Valiant in disguise. um and so he uses this news website to, you know, inflate his ego, and to, you know, continue to perpetuate this myth that he's, you know, this, you know, glorious protector, when really he's just a, you know, big dumb jerk. um and Laurel has been Connie's best friend for 20 years. They just are both so awkward around, you know, that they just, you know, we're just like, there's no way that she could possibly like me unless.
Unless love's weird, man.
Love is so weird. It really is. Like their relationship is heavily inspired by me and my own boyfriend, who's now my fiance. Um, the beginning of their relationship is heavily inspired by our own, where we had this moment where we went to college together, and we had this moment where we were talking about something. We were talking about something. We were clearly trying to come up with reasons to, you know, stay talking together. And there was an awkward silence. And I said, "Can I make it more awkward?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you want to go out sometime?" And he's like, "Oh, thank God. If you didn't ask me out today, I was going to have to ask you out on Wednesday." And I was just like, "Yay!"
You dog.
So their relationship is heavily inspired by that, where like they've had this mutual affection for each other, but have both been just like, "There's no way that she'll say yes. There's no way, like, ever that she'll say yes. Like, she's too cool for me." Like, you know, all that sort of thing. And that was the same kind of deal that it was with my own fiance. But I Laurel is one of my favorite characters to write for. She's just so genuinely sweet and kind and supportive, and she wants to see Connie succeed, and Connie wants to see her succeed. And the story is her story just as much as it is Connie's, because it's their story of how they help each other grow, and get, you know, grow in their own way. For Connie, it's, you know, being a better hero, and for Laurel, it's getting, you know, confidence in herself, because she's very self-conscious and she has no self-esteem. But yeah, so that's Laurel, and I love her hair. Her hair is difficult to draw from the other angle.
Her hair is pretty dope, and they are both so wonderful and such great characters. But now let's look at her foil.
So this is Chuck Bradford, Captain Valiant. He is just, when you hear Chuck Bradford, you like know exactly what kind of people he's inspired by. He is just this big dumb jerk with power. And big dumb jerks with power are some of the scariest guys in the world. Especially when, you know, they've got superpowers, or in some cases, you know, lots of influence. And like, I wanted to do a story where, you know, this Superman kind of a character was a bad guy, because like that's scary. And his actor Patrick Seymour, PM Seymour I should say, is just such a good job of making this Bruce Campbell kind of a character, because like any other thing, he'd be played by Bruce Campbell. He's, you know, got that kind of that Ash Williams magnanimous kind of a vibe to him. But he does such a good job of making this guy scary. Because like there's some moments when Captain Valiant just roars, and he's normally just like, you know, this, you know, whatever, it's fine, it's whatever, it's all good, until you piss him off. And then he's just, you know, this big scary monster, which is very true of the kind of people that he's inspired by. But I have got big plans for Chuck, and you will all see that unfold over the course of this first story arc that we've got going on.
Well, a fun little behind the scenes before we move on. With this character in particular, when you sent me these photos, for those of you who don't know, the file name on this character was "fuck you."
Yes, I like all of the others have like really standard names. Like one is Megaton Girl, one is Connie, one is Laurel, one is Kirby, and then this one is just "fuck you" because everybody loves to hate this guy because he's such a hateable character. But there's a lot of stuff that's really, funny about him. But the scariness outweighs the funny in a lot of ways, which you will see some stuff. Now, this is a character who shows up in the next episode. This is queen sized. Who I guess I can confirm since we say her name in episode 1. Her name is Gloria. She is a 200-meter tall kaiju wrestler who protects the Australian outback from giant monsters. I can't say too much about her because that would spoil a lot of the next episode. But she's a lot of fun to write for. She's a gentle giant until it's time to fight, and then she is just the queen of the ring who will just absolutely pile drive you into a crater, quite literally.
I think we got 2 more.
We have got did I send you any pictures of Kirby?
I think I think he's the last one.
Okay, so this is Dr. Menace, who was the villain of the first episode, who is just, I love Dr. Menace. he's just, everything that you love to see in a bumbling supervillain. He is, he thinks he's, the biggest thing since sliced bread. But he's, he's a little guy. He's just this little guy in a tuna can, basically. And there's something about that is just so endearing, and it makes him so much fun to write for because he has just these these big explosions of just like, I'm awesome and you need to fight me because I'm a supervillain, and that's all he really wants. It's all he wants out of life is to fight a cool superhero to make himself feel cool, because that's what he thinks is cool. He is absolutely, I would say, chaotic neutral more than chaotic evil. I'd say that Chuck is more lawful evil than Dr. Menace is. But he's voiced by my friend Sean Chiplock, who is, Rivali in Zelda. He's Subaru in ReZero. He's what's his name?
Mista from JoJo.
Yeah, but I was gonna say,
he voice sounds like this. Smoke, I think.
Noob Saibot in Mortal Kombat. And just like, Sean is great at playing these really big characters, like big personality characters. So I'm just like, it's gotta be Sean. It's gotta be Sean.
Gotta be Sean.
And Sean absolutely made this character just like probably the biggest standout of the first episode. Everybody loves Dr. Menace. He's just so much fun. And Sean added so many little things to Dr. Menace that made him like even funnier like than I had originally written. Like, he's super smart, but also wants people to like think he's smarter than he already is. So he will, try and like speak in Japanese, but pronounce it horribly wrong. Instead of saying sumimasen, he says sumimasen. And that was purely Sean's idea. That was absolutely just like, Sean was just like, I'm gonna try and go for this and see if you like it, and then he did it. I'm just like, so that's Dr. Menace now.
Man's a genius.
He is. He's an absolute comedic genius.
And since this episode will be posted after episode 41 of Visioncon Live, you guys can watch Visioncon Live episode 41 with Sean Chiplock.
Woo!
All right, and then rounding us out.
All right, so this is Kirby, William Kirby, who is named after, of course, the King Jack Kirby. But so Kirby is Connie's manager and kind of like teacher in a way, mentor, even though he's not the one who's going to be ultimately hands-on teaching her, because I mean, look at him, he's like in his early 80s. There's no way that this guy can handle, you know, Hercules. But he is this old curmudgeon, heavily inspired by lots of like fictional boxing trainers. Danny DeVito. There's a lot of Philoctetes in Kirby, but he is played by another. Everybody in this cast is a dear friend. A character that I forgot to send you a picture of. I'm sorry. He's the Wrangler, who's voiced by my probably my oldest voice acting friend, Mark Allen Jr., who is another character who shows up in episode 2 and is one of the main characters of that episode. But this Kirby is voiced by my friend Jason Marnoka, who is Megatron in Transformers, like in several now Transformers things. That filthy Decepticon. I say that as a former Autobot myself. But I just like the moment that I met Jason, I had already had Kirby like as a character for a while. And the moment that I met Jason, I'm just like, man, Jason's voice is really cool. Like he's got like a really nice texture to it, and he's got a very wide range. And I'm just like, hey Jason, how would you voice this character? And he like showed me like he's like oh, like maybe like down in here, and I'm just like, all right. And so I said, hey, you want to be Kirby? And he's just like, heck yeah, anything. Like, you know, it was one of those things where it was like any excuse to work together, because we had been working on a show together and it was coming to a close, and we're just looking for any excuse to work together after that show ended. But I didn't have to give Jason really any direction. I just said, Danny DeVito, have fun. And he's like, cool, got it. And just he adds so much, you know, he has that grumpiness to him, but there's also like a genuine place of caring. He really cares about Connie and Laurel like immediately. He sees that they're trying to do some good that he has tried to do himself, but has been unable to do because of circumstances that I'll get into later into the season. But he's very much kind of like a grandpa character to Connie and Laurel. He just wants to see them succeed. He wants to do his best to help them grow, even though he can't necessarily do that for Connie hands-on. He's definitely going to be helping both of them grow significantly into, you know, the heroes that both of them can be in their own way. Because he's been training heroes for decades. He trained Captain Valiant before Captain Valiant, you know, just kind of, you know, threw him aside. He trained the two characters who are coming up in episode 2, and now he's training Connie. And he's got a lot of sass to him. He's got a lot of heart to him. And he's got a lot of baggage, which you'll find out about as the show moves forward.
And what with the show moving forward, obviously it eventually shows up on YouTube for the masses, but it is available if you would like to watch it early and simultaneously support this wonderful project. Well, Austin, you have just the thing. Give me just 1 sec to pull it up.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh, no, wrong one. All right. So you, of course.
We got patreon.com/Megaton Girl, which is where I put lots of behind the scenes stuff. There's bloopers, there's previews for episodes, there's commentaries that I still need to record the episode 1's commentary for the 25 tier. You get listening party with the cast at the $50 tier, and you get a special shout out from me. If you do the $100 tier, you get I'll record like a video shout out. If you want it in character, if you wanted it from Roche, I'll give it to you from Roche too if you want. But yeah, that's where you can support the show. And I just realized I need to add a space between meteoric and rise. I meant to do that like a week ago. But yeah, that's the best way that you can support the show, other than merch, which if you go to megatongirl.com, there's a link to everything from merch to the Patreon to episodes, character bios, concept art, stuff like that. That's another place that you can go to help support the show.
About to say, I just want to take a look at this merch.
I actually ended up getting my first bits of the merch myself. I got that yummy sticker, which I had a lot of fun designing. I love that sticker. And then there's another one that I got a sample of, is a shirt that says "Flustered Gay Babbling," which is one of my favorite quotes from the first episode. But yeah, there's a lot of, you can there's iPhone cases. There's the shirt. I love that shirt. But yeah, that's the other way that you can support the show. If you don't want to support on Patreon every month, you can grab yourself a shirt or a sticker or an iPhone case or whatever.
And just so for the folks watching at home, I mean, obviously by now they're sold on Megaton Girl, but where can they follow it? Where can they watch it? And just anything they can do to be the first to see anything regarding Megaton Girl.
All right. So the best place that you can go to find everything is megatongirl.com. It's got links to our social media. It's got episode links. It's got character bios. It's got all that stuff. If you want to go directly to social media, we're at Megaton Girl on Twitter. If you want to find the episode on YouTube really easily, it is pinned to both the Megaton Girl Twitter page and my own Twitter at AmtraxVA. That's you can find that on YouTube, which is where that's the subtitled version. It's in like a visual novel format that's easy to follow. It's got character portraits. It's got sound effect transcriptions. It's got subtitles. It's got all that stuff. Or you can listen to it on basically anywhere that you get podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, what is
Spotify.
it? Was it? Yeah, Spotify. It's on Spoofy, and I believe Amazon Podcast or whatever it is, and Pandora, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. It's anywhere you get podcasts. If you don't want to follow subtitles, you can listen to it while you drive to the work that we're not going to right now because we're in a pandemic.
And all those
the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
There it is. Love that reference. And all of those links that we touched on and more are going to be down there in the description box below on YouTube, guys. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we got for episode 20 of Visioncon Spotlight. Before we wrap things up, Austin, any final thoughts or words of wisdom to leave us on?
If you want to make something, just do it. Like, seriously, like, find a way to make what you want to make. Create your own universe. If you have an idea in your head, try and find a way to make it happen. For me, the easiest way to do that was with a podcast. For you, it might be, a comic, or it might be, a video game, or it might even just be like writing it, like write a novel, write a script, get it out somehow. It's way more worth it than letting it stew in your brain for 8 years like I did. So like, yeah, find a way to make it happen. And, it's a lot more fulfilling than it not happening at all. So
Couldn't have said it better myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 20 of Visioncon Spotlight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but much more importantly, for the second time, this has been our very special guest, Austin Lee Matthews. Make sure to check out all the links down in the description box below. And of course, check out Megaton Girl. And as always, guys, always remember that life's better when you have friends to share it with.